In the hallway right outside of the courtroom where that jury just gave that information. Again, guilty, second-degree murder. That carries 15 years to life. So that is going to be the sentencing we're going to look at here in the next few weeks from the judge. But we've been covering this case for you for since it happened. This is a murder that happened last year, as you recall, and April 1st, 2023. And the trial began about 2 months ago, mid-October 2024. So we have been covering this for you and finally just had this verdict read from the jurors who have been deliberating now. And we were expecting to hear either first-degree murder, second-degree murder, voluntary or involuntary manslaughter, not guilty. But again, now we know second-degree murder, which is 15 years to life.
As we just mentioned, the jury had been deliberating for about 7 days. You see our Melanie Woodrow live there in the courthouse. She is getting a position. We'll go to her in just a moment. She's been following the case since the very beginning. But again, the jury, after 7 days of deliberation, they came to that unanimous verdict. Late yesterday, the judge decided to allow everyone to go back home and then reconvene at 9:30 this morning when they would start reading that verdict aloud in the courtroom. Now let's get to our Melanie.
Turn up my IFB, make it louder, and no.
Is live in the courtroom. We'll give her just a second to get into place. Melanie, hopefully you can hear us okay. Walk us through what unfolded inside of the courtroom moments ago.
Yeah, Julian. So, I mean, as you just said, these jurors unanimously found Nima Momeni guilty of second-degree murder, not first-degree murder, which is what he was charged with. They also had a unanimous verdict as it related to him using a deadly, dangerous weapon. Of course, that was the knife. They found that to be true. I want to bring in right away Randy Knox. He's an attorney here in San Francisco, a criminal defense attorney. I'll ask him to come in. Randy actually was representing at one point Nima Momeni's mother, but is no longer doing that. And I want to ask you if you can describe to our viewers the difference between murder one and murder two, and what might have been going on here for jurors in their ability to find for murder two but not murder one.
Well, first-degree murder requires premeditation and deliberation. Both require what they call malice of forethought, meaning you have to deliberately want to kill somebody. The premeditation and deliberation element requires that you sort of plan it. Now, the law says you can plan it in an instant. It's not like you have to sit down and chart it out like Luigi Mangione did. But it still requires there be an intentional killing for second-degree murder with the element of malice.
I know you were following along in the trial. One of the pieces of evidence that perhaps was critical for jurors here came in closing arguments, and it was the suggestion that Bob Lee had been standing outside of the Battery, perhaps doing drugs, doing cocaine off of what looked to be a knife. At least Nima Momeni's defense attorney suggested that it was a knife. And if jurors believed that was possible, if they went back and they looked at that video and they said, okay, maybe that's a knife, would that have impacted their ability to find for intent? Because if Nima Momeni didn't bring the murder weapon and it was a weapon that Bob Lee had on him, would that impact their ability to find for murder one?
I don't think they would have found for murder one regardless, just because it does require that element of premeditation and deliberation. I think the case turned on the issue of self-defense. And for self-defense, ordinarily defendants have to testify. Your testimony has to be credible. As a defendant, you have to be sympathetic. And as a victim, you want the victim to be a bad person who looks like they could have been the aggressor or initiator.
Obviously, sentencing will be at a later time. Do you have some information you can share with us about what he might be looking at in terms of a sentence?
Might be looking at, it is required by statute for second-degree murder that he be sentenced to 15 years to life. There's an additional 1 year that is added for the use of a knife. There's no discretion. The court cannot sentence him to anything other than that.
We saw these jurors polled. We often see that in cases where the defense attorneys will poll the jurors. Of course, all 12 jurors said that, yes, that was their verdict. Why do we see defense attorneys do that?
Well, you hope that one of the jurors felt bullied into voting in a way that they're not comfortable with. But in my 90-some cases, I've polled every juror as a prosecutor and defense attorney. I've never had a juror say, no, that's not my verdict. By the time it gets to that point, they have already basically crossed the Rubicon and decided I'm going to support that verdict.
Let's talk about some of the numbers in this case. Jurors had 6 weeks of testimony that they listened to. They deliberated for 7 days, spread out over more than a course of a week because this jury was meeting Monday through Thursday. We heard defense attorneys say last week that the evidence in this case was not voluminous, that they were surprised the jurors were taking so long and sort of suggesting that maybe they were hitting a wall or they were deadlocked on some issue. What do you make of the 6 weeks of testimony and then 7 days of deliberations at the heels of 6 weeks of testimony and the evidence that was available in this case?
Well, since it was a high-profile case, I imagine the jurors felt a heightened level of responsibility, so they wanted to make sure they did it right. Now, the dynamics in a jury room are complicated because if you have 1, 2, 3 people who disagree with the majority, it may take a while to convince people to change their position. If it's just one person, I've seen juries hung up 11-1. That's rare. So I am not surprised that it took so long. It's a serious case,
Melanie,
the most serious charge, and I'm sure they spent a lot of time.
Bob Lee's brother, Oliver Lee, is about to speak.
Thank you very much, Randy.
If we could go ahead and listen into this. Again, this is Bob Lee's brother, Oliver, speaking right now. Let's listen in.
That the press was and the rest of the world was in this case, meaning that they didn't understand the context that was around that, and that's just the nature of what happens within a criminal trial, right? But we know what happened here, right? We think he had the intent to murder. The jury felt like he did not have the intent coming into that situation. But what matters today is that we had a guilty verdict and that Nima Momeni is going away for a very long time. And that us, the family, Bob's kids will not have to see him on the street, right? It's been a very, very crazy ordeal. It's been so hard to be able to live through all of this, and we're pleased that we're able to move past this part of this chapter in our life. There's still more of the book to go on, but we're pleased with the verdict today.
Do you have any thoughts on sentencing? Any thoughts?
The sentencing, as I've said through this, actually, I do not know what the maximum is for murder 2, but obviously we think that's true. The intent, what we wanted the outcome for this trial to be, doesn't matter whether it's murder 1 or murder 2, it was that Nima Momeni's that Bob's kids do not have to see him on the streets again, right? And we think that that's a possibility here.
What would murder 1 have done for you that murder 2 doesn't?
You know, it's a great question. I don't know. Like
longer sentence.
Longer sentencing, yeah. And everybody, this is Dad, by the way, and Krista, all of us standing here together.
What has the last week been like waiting for this jury to come in? Everybody's made a big point of how long it's taken. It must have been difficult to wait this long.
Yeah, this has been one of the most difficult weeks of our lives that was preceded by the next most difficult week of our lives, which was preceded by the next most difficult weeks of our lives, and all the way back for the last 18 months. This has been an extremely hard process to be able to try and get through and to just live through, right? We're happy this part's over, right? And we're happy it's a guilty verdict, and we're very thankful to the jury and the district attorney and the police of San Francisco.
Where does your family go from here? What's next for you?
So our family tries to start healing from here. And so what's happened over the last 18 months is this has been an open wound with our family, right? And it's been so difficult because just the scrutiny and just all the context that has been around this has been extremely hard for us. This marks a point where we know that Nima Momeni now is being held accountable for his actions, and so now we can start healing and trying to come together more as a family to try and not move on from this, because I don't believe that's possible, but at least try and get our lives to a place where it's not something new and horrible every day.
Were you at any point fearful that he would not be found guilty?
Of course, yeah. It's the nature of a jury trial, right? And that the longer it went on, the more we were pensive about what was going to happen in the room today. And we're glad they came to the right conclusion, and I'm glad they took the time to be able to come to that conclusion. Because if they would have rushed and done something else, that would have sucked.
If you could say anything to...
One second, let me get here and I'll come right back to you, okay?
If there's anything you could say to Nima's family or to him directly, what would you like to say?
The blood is on their hands.
Yeah,
His mother, his sister, and the brother-in-law. Our fight is not over yet.
So it was clear for us within the courtroom of what happened, right? Not only did Nima perpetrate this crime, but also the people in his immediate circle were helpful in trying to cover that fact up. And that helped them to get the charges down to murder 2 today, right? And so we believe that all of them should feel as guilty as Nima does today, right? They are, it is, it's hard to fathom where people reach down to, the depths of what they are, to be able to come to the conclusions and come to the actions that Nima and the people in his halo were in, that they did that night, right? And so, honestly, I don't have anything to say to him directly because I don't think that's worth it, right? And he's going to be in jail for a long time, and he doesn't deserve your attention, and he doesn't deserve mine.
Krista, you want to say a little more?
Yes, we need not done. If it wasn't for Kazar's manipulation, drug abuse, and promiscuity, we might still have Bob for his birthday this year. To the mic? No, it's well. We can do private interviews later. Good job.
Okay.
How will you celebrate Bob's birthday?
We're gonna, if you guys hadn't noticed, we had, I think 30, 40 people here today that came in support of Bob, which was awesome to see. And so we're going to spend some time with those people, and we're going to talk about Bob, and we're going to have a good day. It's been a long time, but we're going to have a good day today, and the best we can, and we're going to spend time with those people today. Right? No, Bob's birthday is Friday, actually. Yeah.
What do you think about the DA's office and the job they did?
I think they did a great job. I think it was a very difficult case to prove in this day and age, and I think they were up against a raft of lawyers and a very high-powered defense team that was a very expensive and very media-friendly defense team, and I think they did a great job at doing that. And they were with us every step of the way. Dane and Omid were very, very. They were supportive of us and very empathetic towards our family and helped keep us informed throughout this whole process. And as much as a bad process as this has been, they made it better.
Can you take us to the moment you heard the words guilty?
My heart just, like, I don't know, I had just all of the emotions at once, I guess I would say. The way procedurally where they said not guilty on murder 1 and then they said guilty on murder 2, that may have been, I thought I was having a heart attack, I gotta tell you. Right.
Do you think justice was served?
As much as it can be, right? I know for a fact I'm never gonna have my brother back, but this is the best of all worst outcomes, right? And so this is where we are today, and all we can do is move forward.
Legal action, civil suit, anything like that?
We currently are talking to other attorneys to make that a reality, or see if that's a possibility at this time. I'm not a lawyer, but I will take the advice of other lawyers to make that happen. Yes. Okay. All right. One more question, and then we're gonna, or not? Okay. I'm gonna go be with the family. Thank you. It's my first name is actually Timothy, but I go by Oliver, Oliverlee. And Krista, all
Thank you for coming to speak with us.
Of course. Thank you all.
Okay, we were just listening in to Oliver Lee, the brother of Bob Lee. Of course, Bob Lee being the CashApp founder who was killed in San Francisco's Rincon Hill neighborhood on April the 4th of 2023. If you're just joining our breaking news coverage, we're on the air to let you know that Nima Momeni, a tech consultant out of Emeryville, was found guilty of second-degree murder charges after 7 days of deliberation by that jury. That charge, 15 years to life, an additional year for the use of a knife. We also know that Nima Momeni did not have any prior offenses, so it's likely that he'll be sentenced to second degree with the possibility of parole.
Yeah, and Oliver saying that he felt that Momeni had intent to murder, but he's happy with the guilty verdict, and now they're starting that healing process. We are seeing District Attorney Brooke Jenkins right there standing, who is about to speak, and hopefully we can hear from her along with our reporter Melanie Woodrow, who's been covering this case from the very beginning. But let's go ahead and listen to District Attorney Brooke Jenkins.
Good morning, everyone. I know you just heard from the family. I have to say that we share the relief in this verdict. We truly want to collectively thank the jury for their service. We know that this was a very long commitment of their time, that there was a lot coming at them as far as evidence, and the fact that they took the time that they needed to deliberate and reach this verdict means a great deal, not only to us, but as we know, most especially to this family. I have to right now sing the praises of the two attorneys that handled this case from my office, Omid Talai and Dane Reinstedt. I know these two from having worked with them in our homicide unit prior to becoming the district attorney, and I knew and was confident that we had two of our best handling this case. And I think the verdict is a testament to the hard work that they put in, to the great lawyers that they are, and to their commitment to justice and to this making sure that this family received justice. I also want to thank the San Francisco Police Department, Sergeant Brent Dittmer, who was assigned to this case, to our staff who helped to further the investigation, to our victim advocates who stood by this family during a very tumultuous year as they waited to get to this point. But it took a team effort for us to get here. This isn't just our office. It isn't just the police. It's all of us collectively working together to bring justice to families each and every day. The other thing that I want to say is I think that hopefully now we have once again established what truly happened here. We all know that after Bob Lee was murdered, Elon Musk took to Twitter to make an effort to really shame San Francisco and to make it seem like this was about lawlessness in San Francisco and about what's going on out in our streets. And we knew it was something different.
To the family, this is a difficult time for everyone. We both are victims. We are victims of drug abuse. So we have to focus on one goal. I know Ms. Lee is taking a good care of her kids, and definitely she's gonna guide them more towards peace and not hate towards anyone. And in terms of his legacy, Bob's legacy, we should focus on maybe starting an organization to fight with drugs and to keep his name in a good place.
Have you been able to, in that moment when you heard the verdict, I guess, take us back. What did you feel? What ran through your head in that very moment? Were you able to make eye contact with your son?
At that moment? There's no reason, no. I would rather to have the eye contact with the jurors because this is their decision. My son is not such a thing, such a person. He's the kindest person. Every mother would love to have a son like him. I know my son, and he never does that. So, but this is not a fair trial, and we will stand and we will continue. We are strong. We have been in a difficult time together, and we will be.
Are you saying he plans to appeal? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Definitely, yeah.
And you were talking about starting some sort of organization. Were you saying that Nima is planning to start that?
No, I said, I was telling Miss Lee should do that, or their family should do that. Yes, their family should do that. They were talking about his legacy. Definitely, his name will be stay on an organization which is going for a good cause. So in the future, no other families would face such a difficult time.
We've seen you a lot. You've been here every single day, even before the trial began. And I imagine you've wanted to talk to us before. You've talked about wanting the truth to come out, but you've waited until now. What are some of the things that you have wanted to share with reporters that you haven't been able to until today?
Well, yes, I still have lots to say, but I wouldn't say anything else because we're still gonna fight for this. And I'm gonna wait to see what the lawyers are recommending, and I will send you guys a letter probably later.
Yeah. When you spoke to Nima last night and he knew there was a verdict and he was waiting to hear it, how was he feeling? What was he sharing with you?
He's always strong and giving me hope.
And I'm sorry, and giving you
Hope.
Can you talk about your daughter? How is she doing? She was here, she testified, and does she know the verdict at this point, and how is she?
Not yet, but I will talk to her, and that's it.
I have one last question for you as well. I know Krista mentioned that she plans to file suit against yourself, Khazar, and Dino. How do you feel about that? What are your...
I haven't heard that, but I don't know if she's going to. I'm sure she will not do such a thing. I'm sure she will be more peaceful if she think about the whole thing, and instead of any bad energy, we should focus on doing something that benefits all of us, especially her kids.
And we just heard her walk out. I think she yelled something on her way out. She said, "Lock her up." And do you take that? How do you interpret that?
People are acting differently. She has her own ways. I have different ways.
Can I ask you what is going through your mind right now? What are you feeling?
You're my therapist. Are you my therapist?
Well, I just want to. I want to know because it's an incredibly
You're.
difficult situation.
How do you interpret? Yeah. How do you think what I'm doing? How am I doing? If you were me, how would you do? How would you feel?
Would you share with us your first and your last name and spell both for us,
No,
if you don't mind?
thank you. You already know. Everyone knows.
What do you think happened that day? What did the jury get wrong?
Those are not the questions I should answer. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah. Okay, so we were just talking with Nima Momeni's mother for quite some time. I think while you guys were listening to Brooke Jenkins speak, she did confirm that her son plans to appeal his case. She talked about speaking with him last night and that he was giving her hope. She described him as being strong. She was asked about some words that Krista Lee had to say as she was rounding the corner here upstairs in the courthouse, yelling out perhaps some difficult words to Nima's mother as she walked by, and Nima's mother said that she has her opinions and she has hers as well. She also suggested that Bob Lee's family, who was talking about his legacy, might consider starting some sort of organization focused on individuals who use drugs. So she's thinking not only about her family in this moment, but what Bob Lee's family might do on the heels of this verdict, but again saying that Nima Momeni plans to appeal this verdict, that he is not guilty. She's clearly not satisfied with this verdict. I also spoke to Oliver Lee right before Nima's mom came down the hallway. I know you heard him talking to reporters at the other end of the hallway for quite some time. The Lee family having a mixed reaction to this verdict. Oliver Lee has always said what was most important to him was that Bob Lee's children would never see Nima Momeni out on the street. And so I think I heard him describe it as sort of the best of the worst case scenarios. Obviously, the Lee family was hoping for murder one. They believe that this was a premeditated stabbing and killing, but they're also satisfied that he is going away and that he's going to spend time away so that his children will not have to see Nima Momeni on the street. You heard Brooke Jenkins talking about two of the best, and who she was referring to were Omid Talai and Dane Reinstadt. These are the two district attorneys that were on this case. They were going up against 5 defense attorneys from Los Angeles and Florida. Nima Momeni had a very big defense team. And Brooke Jenkins saying that they were two of the best. I looked over to District Attorney Brooke Jenkins when the verdict was being read. She was sitting next to Bob Lee's father, and she had her arm around him and was gently rubbing his back. This was clearly not the verdict that they were hoping for. Clearly the DA's office believed that Nima Momeni was guilty of murder one. We saw a lot of friends and family in court today, including Bo Mohazabi. This was Bob Lee's good friend. He was in some sense the star witness for the prosecution. He talked about overhearing the phone call that Nima Momeni made to Bob Lee, in which he seemed to be giving him a difficult time about what had happened in the hours leading up to Bob Lee's death, what had happened to Khazar Momeni, that's Nima's sister, whether or not she was sexually assaulted, whether or not she had been drugged. Prosecution has always suggested that that was the motive, that he was a protective big brother, and he was very concerned for his sister. When I was speaking with Nima Momeni's mother just a moment ago, I asked if Hazar knew the verdict, and she told me that she didn't yet. I asked how she was doing, and she said she planned to discuss the verdict with her, but she didn't believe that she knew the verdict as of yet. Another reporter asked her about a potential civil lawsuit. Bob Lee's family is looking into that. There was some discussion that maybe they would be looking to name Hazar Momeni or her husband, Dino Eliasnia, a prominent San Francisco plastic surgeon, in that lawsuit. Nima's mom saying that, you know, they would do what they're going to do, and then obviously they will respond in some way. Excuse me, the Momeni family. So mixed reactions here. I'm just looking at my notes as we're talking to people as they come down the hallway. I know that Oliver Lee, Bob Lee's brother, was going upstairs. The family was going upstairs probably to talk with Brooke Jenkins, and I imagine prosecutors and possibly San Francisco police. We, of course, saw Sergeant Dittmer. He was the lead investigator on this case. He sat next to prosecutors throughout the entire trial, including a number of the hearings that happened prior to testimony beginning, and Brooke Jenkins, during her interview, also commending San Francisco Police Sergeant Dittmer for his actions in this. I'm looking behind me just so I can keep an eye on who's coming down the hallway here, as everybody obviously is responding to this news. I haven't heard jurors speak yet at the podium, so I'm not sure if any of those jurors are talking, but I did see one of the alternates. Okay, thank you for that. Apparently the jurors have decided not to speak. I did see one of the alternates come down the hallway, and I want to talk about that a little bit. The judge in this case, Judge Alexandra Gordon, really has supported these jurors throughout this entire trial. She thanked them continuously as they listened week after week to testimony. She really was able to assert to them how critical their role was in this, and the responsibility and her appreciation for what they did, for their ability to listen, to be thoughtful. And she thanked them today, and I think it's a real testament to the jurors that the alternates who have not been here in this courthouse for 7 days of deliberations, 3 alternates chose to be here today to hear the verdict, to hear the outcome. And I think that really speaks to how seriously these jurors took this responsibility, that the ones that didn't even need to be here, the ones that weren't in the deliberation room, chose to come back and listen today. And again, those jurors unanimous in their verdict for murder 2, but not for murder 1, suggesting that they did not believe that Nima Momeni had that willful, deliberate, premeditated intent to murder Bob Lee, but that they did believe that he intended to act, the act being, of course, the stabbing, and that it would likely result in death, though not necessarily having the intent to kill. So that's that difference between murder 1 and murder 2. But again, these jurors listening to 6 weeks of testimony, going through all the evidence, one of those potential key pieces of evidence in absence of the jurors speaking, we'll really never know how meaningful it was to them. But in closing arguments, defense attorneys showing a piece of video of Bob Lee presumably or allegedly doing drugs outside of the Battery nightclub, a private nightclub here in San Francisco. He was outside with his friend Bomo Hazabi, and defense attorneys suggested that what he was doing those drugs off of looked to be potentially a knife. Whether or not those jurors believed that Bob Lee brought the knife to the scene versus Nima Momeni bringing the knife. Of course, the knife we knew was a Joseph & Joseph knife, the same brand of kitchen knives that was in Hazar Momeni's apartment, Nima's sister. Whether or not that piece of evidence was critical, we may never know, because these jurors have decided, and it is absolutely their right to decide this, not to speak with journalists today.
Melanie Woodrow, live for us there in the courtroom. Stellar coverage, Melanie. We really appreciate it throughout the day. Again, we've interrupted the view to let you know that Nima Momeni has been found guilty of second-degree murder in the stabbing death of the CashApp founder, Bob Lee, who died in April of last year. We've heard from Bob Lee's family members, his brother saying healing starts today. About 30 to 40 of his family members and friends and people who knew Bob Lee there in the courtroom as the jury who deliberated for 7 days read that verdict aloud.
We heard from District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, who praised the two attorneys that worked on this case in getting this conviction. And we also heard from Momeni's mother, as you mentioned, saying that they are going to appeal this. We'll get more details on that. And at this point, we're just now waiting for the sentencing date. As you mentioned, 15 years to life in prison for Momeni. But we will continue to cover this for you, and we'll have much more for you on ABC 7 News at midday coming up here in just about 30 minutes, so stick around for that. We also have the very latest on our website, abc7news.com. You can find all the details there of this case that we've been covering for 6 weeks now.
That'll do it for our coverage. We return you to The View.